Pudu Vedlai Mare came out, I'm guessing, and again, I was like 4, that there had not been music like that before in the context of Indian music. Obviously, Darbuka Shiva had his vision. Gautam also. There are some times that we fall from within, searching for infinite love. On the western side, it's just like just that the whole time. And then there's like a there's like the gattam is going, and these almost like these 2 layers.
ChatGPT to complete one of his songs. What do you think of using technology to create music?
Mritu towels from Ramraj, premium cotton and bamboo towels. Super soft, super absorbent.
Darling, mobile ullagin superstar.
Periyar Maniammai Institute of Science and Technology, Tanjavur. The world needs you.
So I've listened to this song of yours called Dear Sahana.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting song because of course, there's been a lot of composers that have, fused, different worlds of music, let's just say.
Yeah.
So, but this was interesting because I heard distinctly Carnatic sounding gamakam in English lines of verse, kind of a thing. So it took a little bit of a leap, but then I started enjoying it because it was it was a little unusual.
Yeah.
But the point I'm coming to is what you said earlier about, not worrying about how it does or whatever it is. Now, one of the rewards that you get is something like what Virat Kohli says, which is like, dude, I like the song, and then it goes viral and something like that. But there's another kind of very tangible thing, which is like the views that something gets on the internet.
Yeah.
Now, there's Dear Sahana, which is like a lovely song, and it's a really experimental like song, and you're doing all these wonderful things with the ragam in it and all that. That had, like, I saw it on your site, and I'm just mentioning this as a comparison. That has about like 128,000 views.
Yeah.
Whereas Maruvarte has 169 million views.
Yeah.
And obviously that's a great song as well. Right? So I'm not doing this comparison thing.
Yeah.
But how does it feel when this indie space is still not out there as much? Your people typically say, I want to do something that's going to make me super popular.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is going to make you, it's definitely satisfying you creatively.
Yeah.
It's doing all those things that you want to do as a musician.
Yeah.
But it's not reaching that level of thing. So how do you process that?
Well, let me add a couple caveats. The first one is that song, when it took off, was in the context of the Tiny Desk concert I did for NPR.
Okay.
So when I did that, and I think I was...
Which song are you talking about? This is
Dear Sahana.
Dear Sahana.
So when I did the Tiny Desk, I don't know if I was like, I don't think I'm the first Indian to do it. There's been others before. But I know that the perspective I brought to it was a very, again, let's take Dear Sahana, right? The second verse of that song is, there are some times that we fall from within, searching for infinite love. So like, switching back and forth. And the live performance of that, I kind of lean into that kind of going in and out of the soul and the Carnatic stuff, even more than the recorded version. That Tiny Desk concert went really crazy in certain circles in India, but it really broke me out into the scene in the US and in the West.
Okay.
Like Coachella and stuff happened because of that. And also I'm already popular, right? So I don't really have to put out a song to try to become popular. I got the eyeballs on me already. So I think my responsibility now is to push the envelope. I think if I was making music, and not to say the songs that I've sung for films have been made so that they can become super popular. I think any song that has done well, like let's take Madhuvarte, for example. I knew walking out of that session that we'd done something that was not just going to be like viewed a bunch and stuff, but something special. I remember like Damare ma'am, who's like pretty straight-faced, like, you know what I mean? And like that session moved her a lot. And that was like a big barometer for me. I was like, oh, damn. Like, because she's hard to impress.
Yeah.
Man. But coming back to the point, I think, so when that song where the Tiny Desk came out, and this is something I've understood and kind of like realized over time, it was the cultural impact that it had was, I think, the real gift. And the impact was more than views, and it went viral on like TikTok and Instagram and such, like those clips did. But more than that, um, there's been so many artists, younger artists, that have hit me up since that and been like, oh, we can kind of like take this leap of faith and try this thing out and not just like have to sing, like especially Indian kids that grow up in the US. Lots of men like, well, I don't have to just sing like this like pure R&B song where I can kind of like toe the line. And there's been artists who have kind of like been byproducts of something like that or something I've done before, where you see them trying to like bring these worlds together more. I think that's one. Two, within India itself, I think the thing that people come up to me most about when it's not about my film work is specifically that song, Do the Dance, which is another one from the same. But the overall output of the Tiny Desk and then the album afterwards, in that again, and I think this happened when Entropy, the other album that I put out, I think it happened then as well, but I was too caught up in the numbers game to really even acknowledge the impact that it had. This time around, I'm much older and kind of able to take more of a step back. I realized that impact comes in various forms. And there's also, I think the other thing you talked about, just like artistic satisfaction, about being able to make something that feels not only super honest, but something that really does feel like it can be an instrument and a mechanism to push things forward. If I have anything to say about music today, my one perhaps gripe would be that there is a little bit of a monotony that is setting in.
But when you say music, you mean all music? Pop music, film music, everything?
A little bit. Rather, maybe not monotony. I feel like there's this need for just like different voices, and I don't mean that in the literal sense, but just something that's just gonna be like, oh, you can do things this way as well.
Okay.
You know, it doesn't have to be this. Or like a little bit more risk taking, I think can go a really long way. I think it's happening and it's starting to happen. But looking towards the West, this is kind of funny that I'm saying this, but looking towards the West for one's cultural cues, sonic cues, genre cues, all that stuff, I think soon that will have to a little bit go out the door. And by that, I don't mean like not using aspects of those sounds, because I would be contradicting myself completely if I said that. But I think it's super important. Right now, we're in this moment. It feels like a precipice where if enough artists are down to take the leap and make shit that just feels like, whoa, what was that? To people within the country, first and foremost, and something that feels like it's very rooted, but still something for the future. Like the way that Afrobeats and such has really set a tone globally, genre-wise, I think music from India can do that. It hasn't done that yet.
Yeah.
We've seen little sparks of it, right? And what I think we can't get satisfied with is those little sparks. I think Dear Sahana was a step in that direction.
Okay.
And I think I'm maybe like one of the first people that's really like pushing some of these doors down. And it's not going to be as simple as just like putting a certain rhythmic pattern on a song or like, and you know, like this is a note for even myself or something I keep in mind. It's going to be like getting into the crux of music making and really figuring out, okay, what is the DNA that we're putting in this thing that, and this is like an artist to artist kind of like self-conversation kind of thing. You know, what is the fabric, what is the DNA that is in this, that is going to just feel very much like authentically itself while still being able to like push the boundary a little bit. That's a very long-winded answer to, I think impact happens in various ways.
Yeah, but I have a counter argument to that. I think that popular music tends to be a little, to use your word, monotonous, simply because today there's like very little time to reach the audience and grab them, because I don't think we have an audience.
We gotta fight that though, man.
We gotta fight that out.
We have to.
Okay,
because-
we'll fight that out.
No, not even between you and
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying that, like, I agree. That is the paradigm that we live in.
Yeah.
But we have to, if that's gonna be our reference point, if that's gonna be our only way, then the music is gonna be those 15 seconds that.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, after a point, it's gonna be trash. It's not trash yet. I think the music is still really cool.
People used to say that even when let's say, again, no judgments here, but like when, Harry Connick Jr. or Kenny G did jazz.
Sure.
Versus John Coltrane. Because,
Yeah.
if you want to listen to John Coltrane, you really have to listen.
Yeah.
You got to be there.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you can do something.
It can be in the background.
It can be in the
elevator
background.
music.
Sure. You can do that.
Sure.
And again, I'm not
No
dismissing
judgment.
that at all.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So that's also part of it. It's like you do this enormously difficult thing.
Yes.
There's a reason a lot of, like, 90% of the world music is in 4/4 beats or Adi Talam or whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because that's the most instinctively, even Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is 4/4.
Sure.
That's because that's the most absorbable.
Rhythmic pattern that everything
that
kind of like evenly falls into.
Out. So,
Sure.
So I think that's anyway. That pushing that is.
I think just one last point there. I think just to take the same Coltrane, Kenny G, I think like what was born out of like this need to maybe not get back to the complexity of a Coltrane or a Miles Davis, but to the kind of like core kind of feeling that some of that music gave us. Like that was one of like the music that came out of the neo soul movement, whether that be like D'Angelo, Jay Dilla, the Roots, a lot of this stuff that was happening. I think this was maybe like sometime in the 90s where it was still accessible. And that's another thing. I think that music can be accessible while still not being microwave. You know what I mean? I think that there is like Michael Jackson, for example, best example. Like that is pop music, or A.R. Sir as well. Like when Pudu Verle Mare came out, I'm guessing, and again, I was like 4, but I'm guessing that there had not been music like that before in the context of Indian music. Would I be correct? Yeah. But that is like, to me, a pop song, right? It's like, it's still very much so a pop song. And yeah, I guess like this is something we'll see. I think what my role is going to be to provide to the Reels era or whatever. And I think those mechanisms and those tools are still awesome to reach people. Again, I've enjoyed it. Like the Tiny Desk I saw, like those clips, I got recognition because those formats exist.
Yeah.
I think my role will be to be an example of the fact that you can make music that people have maybe never heard, might be slightly challenging or just different, not challenging, but still pop music, still accessible, still reach the masses. And that is my goal, because I think what I want to be able to do is sing these songs in front of thousands and thousands and thousands of people, change people's lives, really molecularly change the way that they exist, and reach as many people as possible, while still making something that that challenges this idea that monotony is a necessary aspect of this thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is soul a pop song?
Yes.
Why pop? What is your pop is actually popular?
Yeah.
So,
but the genre-wise, I think it's a pop song. One, the melodic choices are very hooky. The song sounds like a kind of like each section feels like a hook unto itself.
Is there like a like a verse chorus?
Yeah.
That's
So
happening?
it's intro, verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, out.
So it's a traditional structure.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. But you played around with that.
I played around. I think where I played around with this, I didn't really play around with the structuring too much. It actually kind of like follows a pretty specifically like pop song structure. The song is 3 minutes long. Where I played around with things is within that structure. What are the things I can do that subtly give it this different perspective? Like example, I think like the core rhythm on the Western side is just like just that the whole time, and like little. And then there's like a takademi. There's like the gattam is going, and these almost like these two layers are in conversation with each other. And the melodic choices I've made feel, again, like they're pulling from both the Western side and the Carnatic side and kind of, instead of doing this thing where I'll sing a phrase that's Western and then a phrase that's more Carnatic, the whole melodic output felt like it's a marriage of both worlds. So I think that's where the kind of non-traditional or kind of more experimental approach or perspective lives within the song. But the song is very much a pop song in the structure. And again, that's like my biggest kind of barometer for a pop song is the hook. And if it feels like a hook, and I think that's definitely the case with this piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, a hypothetical question. Now, you're taking and blending stuff in a pop universe, a Western, where, it is a melting pot.
Yeah.
It is not pure in the sense that the attraction of popular music or whatever it is that it's like, it takes a bit of this, it takes a bit of that, or whatever it is. Do you see the reverse happening when you're performing Carnatic music?
No.
Because that is, because the word purity is attached so much with it.
Unfortunately.
But the thing is, do you see yourself during an alapane or something like that, doing a bit of an R&B?
No, not because I'm scared, but I think like
because there's going to be a bunch of people that come after you. But there's
that,
also
I don't really care about that.
Okay.
And they come after me anyways.
Yeah.
Like this, like once you, and I think this is kind of unique to me where I know there's been musicians who have existed in the film and the popular spheres who have also done Carnatic music. But for me, it's like equal footing in both worlds, where I'm like pursuing Carnatic music just as intensely now as I was any other time. And the same is true with all my pursuits. So people are always going to kind of like be like coming for me because one, I think at the beginning they thought I was going to have to give one of them up. And I'm now 12, 13, 14 years and I haven't had to at all. And so there's going to be some people that are pissed off about that. And then other people just the idea of, I sing like full-throated, like using my full voice from my gut. And for some reason in like Carnatic music over the last few decades, that has been less of a fixture in the form. The music I grew up listening to, whether it be MS Subbalakshmi, Samangudi, Madhuramani, all of them, they were singing from their gut and really throwing their voice. I think part of it has to do with also with the advent of recorded music and social media and the fact that you can watch everything immediately. Another conversation for another day. But I never allow aesthetic or genre kind of spaces outside of the Carnatic context to come into my Carnatic concerts. It doesn't feel...
Because the minute I said this, you said, no. But so, like, why?
Because, like, okay, let's say I said, the la... It's Cambodian, I'll just say, the la, na, 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 oh. It just, like, makes me feel kind of funny. You know what I mean?
But is that conditioning?
No, I don't think so. I think like this is what it is. When you're in the portal of, let's say, improvising on, like when you sing alapane, sometimes upwards of like 15 minutes, it's like a practice in extreme presence. Because you can't congratulate yourself if something sounds good. You can't get down on yourself if you have a little slip here and there. Because when it's done the way it's supposed to be done, it's proper, spontaneous, in the moment music. And that vocabulary that you're using as your building blocks, if it's the same, I think the way I think about it is this. If I pull from a phrase outside of the context, it's the same as me singing a Cambodian and suddenly singing a phrase accidentally that's Kalyani. Where like then the mountain that you're building.
But that is, okay, anyway.
It's the same though. It's because like, think about it like this. A phrase is not just the notes you're singing, it's the way in which you sing it. It's the amount of pressure that you give a certain sangadi, it's the speed at which you sing.
No, I'm talking about you using the same Arohanam and Avrohanam, the same ascending and descending notes of Kamboji, but in, I'm not saying bringing in different...
No. I'm saying that, but a ragam is way more than just ascending and descending.
I know, but I'm saying that the way you're saying bringing in Kalyani means you're bringing in other...
but I think this is just as other as that is.
Okay,
so like, if I sang that, forget the audience, I wouldn't know what to do next.
Okay.
But then also this, I did these 3 nights at the Blue Note jazz club in New York, which is like Story Jazz Club over there. I did 3 nights in September, 2 nights a few months ago in February. That's a space where I'm approaching it a completely different way, where it's no holds barred, completely open, and aesthetically, I'm not singing a 15-minute alapane, for example. I am there. The only kind of intention and the goal is to shapeshift freely, sometimes frenetically, without thinking, and just seeing what moments you're going to chance upon. To backtrack a little bit, maybe it is conditioning. Maybe 10 years from now, when I'm on stage and I'm singing something, I might figure. One thing that has happened is there'll be like certain phrases or like musical influences and touch points from non-Carnatic music that inevitably finds a way into my subconscious because you're constantly taking information in and it's going to find its way into the well of what you're drawing from. I am sure certain phrases that I'd sing, whether it be like a gamaka in a song or while I'm improvising, great. I think a better way for me to articulate is when I'm singing Kalpana Swaram, for example, right? So let's take, I was practicing something yesterday. So then certain grooves that I can hit will so like certain like very subtle grooves I'll hit will be kind of influenced from some of the other music I sing. Some of the stuff that again bubbles up from the subconscious is probably influenced by some of this other stuff, but I've developed my instrument, again, not the voice, but the how it goes from brain / spirit into out, to be able to, as it comes out, I know how to do that translation in real time of, and this is all happening subconsciously without actual thought, such that maybe the phrase was, oh, maybe that was like something that's somewhere deep, and when it comes out, it might be inspired from that, but still will sound like it is part of the raga.
Right. You know, like because I was this is just a hypothetical question. I was picking your brain because the thing is, people feel comfortable taking Carnatic or Hindustani to pop.
Yeah.
But the reverse kind of like doesn't happen as much. And I'm like, as long as you label it, saying that okay, this is an experiment in doing that.
I do that.
Why not go there? Because
So
the thing is, you know, because one of the reasons I love this band called Agam. They do amazing renditions of Carnatic compositions, but as like rock.
Yep.
You know, like so the thing is, it's not the purity of the music is maintained. I feel it's just that the purity of two different styles of music. Instead of a sedate mridangam or something like that, you're getting into a different kind of zone.
I think there's so much scope. I think what has to be kept in mind when either the osmosis is happening either way is that the feet are still firmly planted in whichever worlds you're occupying.
Yeah.
I think I do these shows called Boundless, where sometimes there's being me by myself, just open improvising for like an hour. In those moments, you don't know which world it is. Like it feels, and I sing cross-legged, sitting on the floor. So you can't pinpoint, is this a Carnatic concert, is this or that? So I do those. But if I'm in a sabha or not, but with musicians, a mridangam, a ghattam, and a violin, and I'm planning a Carnatic concert, chances are I'm not going to, and not for purity's sake too. It's definitely not that. And it's also not for fear of what people will say. But I think there's a real beauty in being able to build out a concert that is very clearly operating. This is the answer. I got it now. So what makes Carnatic music very beautiful to me is that it's specific parameters that you operate within, right? The rules that are there, the boundaries are super set, very nuanced. And the beauty in that form is getting to find creative liberation within these boundaries. I think if I start to toy with those boundaries in the context of a Carnatic concert, then you're breaking down molecularly the form in a way that you kind of lose the scope of what you can discover within this space. But this is a evolving thought process conversation. I'm sure when we speak next in 5 years or whatever, I'll have a different perspective on it.
Done. So, I was talking to the Devi Shri Prasad, and he told me that when he had the musician's equivalent of a writer's block, let's call it musician's block, he's composing a song, he gets stuck. He says, I'm going to do something else, do something totally outside of the ambit of this particular thing, so that, and then when unexpectedly something happens when he's jamming, and that leads him back to completing the song or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really interesting way of handling a block, right?
Yeah,
it's like a thing. But when you're on stage, and you're singing live, which, let's take Carnatic, right? Like you're in the Margari season.
Yeah.
So the thing is, just to kind of explain, there's like one part of the concept that is structured, which is like the song itself, which is like it has specific let's call it lyrics, like specific words set to specific phrases. So that part is you're
rendering a composition.
You can do it in your sleep.
Yeah.
You don't have to particularly be alive to kind of do it. And not to say that you
understood.
you know what I mean.
Understood.
It's because you've absorbed it so much that then there is the improvisatory part, the manodharma part, which is like the where you're getting to explore the ragam or whatever it is in your particular way.
Yeah.
What happens when you're like, you've not reached the upper sa, you're like let's say you're at ma, and you're starting with the lower sa,
and making your way up.
You're making your way up, and you reach your ma, and suddenly like your brain just like locks. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, definitely. I think it happened a lot when I was a bit younger. The biggest kind of workarounds for that is just taking a break and no, I'm just kidding.
And jamming with something else.
No. The biggest workaround for that I've realized is taking deep breaths, like just taking a moment and clear, like taking a deep breath both in your gut and like through your nose, so the oxygen in your brain kind of gets rejuvenated as well. And most of the time, that's helped me like. Because, like, obviously you have to have done the prep work to know what you're working with, and the well has to be deep enough that you have things to pull from. And when I was younger, then there was moments where obviously the work hadn't been done to pull from, so I just figure out some way to throw some notes together and just get it done, and then look pretty pissed off on stage for at least the next song. In the last 5 to 6 years, I would say, the breathing has really helped, because most of the time it's not for lack of ideas. It's just that you've hit a little bit of like a roadblock, and you got to figure out how you can either move around it, move through it, jump over it, whatever. And these are all like split-second decisions. You don't have like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's why I asked you. Yeah.
So the best way is just to figure out how can you clear your mind and your spirit and like relax a bit. And that's what really kind of opened me up to this. Is I started boxing like 2.5, 3 years ago.
Okay.
And that was like a huge step for me, because I don't like going to the gym and like working out for the sake of it. I need something active to do. And once I started boxing, 2 things happened. One, got in shape, which was great. But more than that, it brought this understanding of how there's physical things one can do to open the brain up to focus, and that they're really like magical workarounds, So once I started doing that more, I started breathing better. And then once I started breathing better, I realized that like a lot of times when I was singing, when I was younger, I was really tense for whatever and it wasn't, I wouldn't be nerves or anything, but just naturally I would tense up a bit. And once I was able to relax the body and then by way of that, the mind, when these moments would happen, I'd take a breath, tell myself, it's no big deal. Like, forget about any external judgment. What do you feel like singing in this moment? And that's helped it 90% of the time. That 10%, when that still doesn't help, I still figure out a way to get it done and keep it pushing.
So one musician told me that their workaround, I'm not doing the gender thing, that their workaround was to stockpile a bunch of listen to a lot of older musicians.
Yeah.
See how they did their alapanis or
Yes.
their kalpanaswarams or whatever it is.
Yes.
And in a way mug up the what they were doing, so that in case they got stuck,
Yes.
they could always borrow, okay, so MS did this, or
See-
Semaguri did this, and okay, so that's the phrase I'm going to go to next.
Yeah,
So,
It takes a specific kind of mind to do that, though. Like, for me, from younger, like, as far back as I can remember, I was not the kid who can memorize everything the day before a test and go. I had to have understood the subject matter to be able to, like, do well. It had to be something that, and I think that applies directly to my Carnatic, or my music knowledge and my experience with music as well. It's not something that I can kind of like, I don't have the ability to listen to a bunch of recordings, memorize phrases, such that I can have the tools to use those in real time in that moment. Because again, it's like these are like you're there and you have to figure it out then and there, or else there's going to be a very awkward pause in the concert.
And there's a critic from the Hindu sitting in the first
Well,
row.
forget that person. But there's an audience who, up until that point, was right there with you. And if you, it's like any arc of a film, of a concert, of a song. The minute you don't, you can intentionally have silences, and that's all part of the flow. But if you lose them, you run the risk of losing the concert.
Yeah.
Right? Because ultimately, I know I said something about entertainment in the beginning of the conversation, but in music and performance and entertainment and all aspects of it, what it's really about is building a connection with your audience, building for an energy in a space that's going to let it really buzz in a certain way, and then bringing them along the journey that only you know that what's being created, especially with improvisational music, but any music. So, like, forget the critic. It's like the person at the very end of the auditorium is sitting there just like at the edge of their seat with you, and it's your responsibility to safely take them through this journey, right? Or maybe not so safely, but take them through the journey intentionally. So I can't do the memorizing thing. What you can do and what I have used, and I think this is maybe somewhat similar in process, is like know the compositions in these ragas so well, because most of the phrases that you're pulling from, the source point is the compositions. In some way, shape, or form, the compositions of the great composers is what's going to give you your bank of ideas.
Yeah, which is why a lot of people, as you're doing the development, they could pretty much say what the composition is going to be after that. It's
because you'll include a couple nuggets in there that give them that. Yeah. So I think that has been another workaround is like, if you know these compositions super well, for the most part, and you're relaxed, if you hit that point, you know what? I have a little cousin. He's like, now he's a bit older, but when he was like 2 years old, we're in my backyard, and he was about to topple down. It was just like 4 stairs. He was about to fall. Most kids like start crying and get panicky. This kid was like, he was about to tumble. He figured it out, and he landed, sat down, and he took care of business like a boss. And like he could have gotten bruised or whatever, but he's just chilling, right? And that right there is, I think, the biggest workaround for anything. Just stay chill.
Right.
Know that like it's not the end of the world, especially in this context. And I think music is profound, but it's definitely not the end of the world if you're gonna forget a phrase on stage or not be able to tap into something. Keep it chill. And having done the work, like know the compositions well enough that if it comes time and you have to pull from this and figure out how that can be. And a lot of times if you do that, and if you have a lapse for a moment, but if you have that one phrase, however you have it, whether it's from listening to other musicians or the compositions, if that can just like take you to the next point, then that's probably going to inspire a new set of ideas, and you're going to keep going. And also, no, this is like the Miles Davis quote. I don't have it exact, but there's no like wrong notes as such, but it's like, it's how you react to it. And that now has become somewhat of a cliche, and I'm sure some people abuse that idea. But I think that's also very true. It's all about like, okay, how do you build from whatever it is, especially in improvisational music, because there's rules, but there's no blueprint, there's no roadmap. You can go wherever you want within, whatever those walls are. So, yeah.
So speaking of critics, I read a review of your Marguerite concert where they said that, why are you smiling?
I don't know.
So I read a review that said that, you've got this fantastic toolbox, and you know the review I'm talking about.
I think so, but you can finish.
So and then you've got this great facility with the felicity with the upper notes, and but you've got to work on the.
I've been working on it
on the lower registers.
Yeah,
you've been working on it.
I've been working on it. I think.
Does Soul have any of that?
A little bit.
Okay, can you say some of that? Sing some of that.
It doesn't have much of it, actually. I'm being honest. I'll say this, like my comfort, and I mean, it's like a jubilant song. So I wasn't gonna like go into like the lower registers of my voice to really express that. But there's other music that I'm working on currently that definitely touches on that. Like any artist, there's like these certain insecurities one has, right? And my voice throws in the upper register easily. It always has. And like if you listen to my speaking voice, it's a tad bit raspy. It's been that way since I was a kid. The lower registers have always been a little bit more whispery when they came out. And I'm like a high tenor is like my range. But what I realized more recently, because this has been like before critics and all that, like my mom has always kind of like hounded me about it. Other mentors have been like, hey, this is something you should think about. I think I was just like nervous to tap into that range of my voice because it didn't have the same level of like sheen to it. It wasn't as like immediately brilliant, you know? But what I realized is that there's something so deeply vulnerable about that range specifically for me that feels a lot more revealing. And that also might be why I haven't used it as much so far. But I actually like, it's something that I'm constantly working on, not because I feel like I have to make sure I like check the box
prove a
off.
point or something like that.
No, but there's like, again, there's a deep vulnerability in it that is, it's just like, and I guess like my song with Raja sir, Unnananich is probably like a really good example of the fact that can be a real beauty in that tone. Soul does not have that. Soul is like pretty much from start. It doesn't go super high immediately, but it starts in a place where I can like sing it with a smile from the very top.
What's the lowest you've gone?
The lowest I've gone? I mean, like Shruti wise? Hold on, let me just take the tambur out for you real quick. So I can just, like when I'm practicing, I don't know like a song, what's the lowest I've gone, but the lowest, let's take like, again, another raga. Let's take Bhairavi for now. So like the Kirsa, I can go down like that's what I'm really working on developing. Another thing I realized as I've been practicing is that, and another thing my mom's
And I think in that particular concert you sang the Viduboni Varnam, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. I started it with that, exactly. And that's probably why he had that comment. Because that's you can't force those notes out is another thing I realized. Like it's like a lot more force and like immediate impact. The relaxation point that I mentioned before, singing the lower register for me requires me to be super just like one still, not tense, because the minute I tense up, my voice constricts. But if I'm like if I'm breathing properly, if all the cavities internally open up, it's starting to really be able to like resonate in that space. And a big thing technically that it requires is, and I always thought this was only true for the high register stuff, but just to like open your mouth the right way. So if I sing it normally, but it starts to kind of like
lower.
My biggest thing is this: like I can sing the note, you're gonna be able to hear it, but I want it to have like that resonance,
the sheen
right?
of the
and like there's like a bing thing that happens if you hear a note sung and it just hits the center of the note. You know what I mean? I love when that happens, and that's what I'm after right now. So it's been a work in progress. You know, the last couple of years I would say has been like pretty intentionally like locking in on that. So we'll see when the next review comes out if they're like, hey, good job, man.
When you're singing a film song, you said that you're an instrument, but for example, if you take Devi Shri Prasad's song, the Shivalli song, there's the chorus that goes Chupe Bangaramayana, Shivalli, that part.
Yeah.
Each time you sing it, it's a little different.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like you're doing sangatis on it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Is that DSP asking you to do it, or is that Sid Sriram saying, I want to sing this, can I do this differently?
In that case, I think it was mostly him asking me to do it. Let's take a specific like Sangadi. Like the second time I think I come back to that hook, I sing Chupe Bangaramayana Shivalli Mate Chupe Bang like that specifically.
Yeah.
I think that was just me like off mic humming something to myself, and he was like, hey, that sounds cool, let's try that.
Okay.
So it's like a very it's not like a super like set process as such. It's like very, especially that song. Recording that song was very exploratory. We spent a lot of time in the studio that day. It wasn't one where I was trying to leave super fast or we had like a set a time limit as such. So we were just trying different things out. He was very clear. He wanted to like try to access a different part of my voice in how I sang. So yeah, some of the Sangadis were, or I would sing something that felt maybe a tad bit excessive, maybe too much of a gamaka, too many
And
notes
he'd
in the
say-
phrase. He said, why don't you try this instead? So it was very much like that kind of a conversation.
Right. You know, because the thing is, when you said very early on in this conversation that a lot of your songs tend to be a little melancholic or a little reflective or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the song that came to mind because this is a love song.
Yeah.
But it has that strain of minor notes.
Yeah.
It's got those, that little bit of,
Just a tinge of it.
this tinge of it. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
even the Chupe Bangaram, it's like, it's not a joyous kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's a I don't know. No, I won't call it sad, but it's like a.
There's an edginess to it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another song that I want to talk about is Maruvarte, right? It's like it's one of my most favorite songs because I'm a very huge believer in songs that have good lyrics, and that song just knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
And so Tamara is a genius according to me, and I've told her this. When you're doing that, again, it is such a fast-paced song because it's like it takes off and then it's like a rocket, right?
Yes.
In those, as opposed to Srivali, which is a slightly slower song, which allows you to be meditative.
Yeah.
These fast songs, are you able to be like? Do you just follow the music director's instructions and kind of whiz through that, or is there a give and take there also?
That was a pretty open session in that the melody that Shiva had made was super simple. Ta la 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 ta da da ta la la la. Like it's a very like direct melody. There's not a whole bunch of turns that the melody takes where you'd be like, oh, I didn't expect it to go there necessarily. And the minute I heard it, I knew that like Desh was like the kind of core raga that existed within it. So we started playing with that as I was singing it. Though the beat is driving and the song moves at a certain tempo and pace, the vocal phrasing is not that fast. It's pretty like, I'm never having like jamming a bunch of lyrics into one, you know what I mean? So I have my space to kind of
your
really
stuff.
sing as I need to. But again, that session was open in that he made like the core melody. He knew what he was really married to in his melody, what he definitely did not want to compromise. And then he knew where he wanted to like give me the space to kind of and it was like micro moments, like Mail toge pole tala was not there in the original, but that was just like, and we found all these like little moments through the course of just recording the piece. And it was, and I think this is normally the case with most recordings or like when I'm composing music as well. You go through it and the recording process for a film is the shortest kind of example of this. But near like the end of the recording is when everything really locks in. And then you go back to the beginning and re-record like the first Pallavi, for example.
Right.
Because by the time I've gotten to the end of the song, everything's super internal at that point. The melody is like subconsciously understood. The lyrics are a lot more like, just within me at that point. So I remember that recording being one where we, again, had a decent amount of time on our hands. I remember walking into that recording not really feeling like recording. I was like in a bad mood or something had happened. I had an annoying conversation with someone. So I was like, it was afternoon. I was like, wanted to take a nap or whatever, you know what I mean? And I walked in and the energy was so great. It was really cool. But yeah, what was nice is that obviously Darbuka Shiva had his vision. Gautam also freaking genius when it comes to like obviously filmography, but the music decisions that man makes are so cool to me.
What decisions had he made?
Just like he wanted that song to have like that grunginess to it, like the kind of like, you know what I mean? He wanted to push even the songs he's chosen. I mean, like most albums I've heard of his have like such brilliant, he's able to pull something out of the people he works with and his presence in the studio. And obviously Tamare ma'am as well. She also like, my first time really working with her was Talipogade. And that was like a full day of her just like nope. Like just like telling me every take was like, I don't know, it doesn't sound right. At the end of the day, she's like, okay, I think this is fine.
Is that because of the pronunciation?
Yeah, and that was what, like my third, fourth song, so there was still this anglicized kind of nature to how I sing certain words. She was not having it. Other people before that were kind of like, they'd give me a little leeway, but she was not down. And I remember then too, just being like, oh my God, I just want to go home. And I felt like a kid in school again, and I hadn't felt like that in a long time. But then we obviously know what happens when, she makes sure. And Madhvate, again, like with her presence, with Gautam's presence, with Darbuka Shiva, it was just like a good group of people in a room who weren't, again, super set on this has to be what it sounds like at the end. It was everyone exploring it and figuring it out together. I'm pretty sure that Tamare Ma'am probably switched a couple lyrics like in real time while we were there. And those are so much fun because it feels like a collective effort rather than being hired to go do a job.
Let's talk about Sid Sriram as a lyricist for soul.
Yeah.
So there is this line which your publicist gave me. There's in this, this document that your publicist gave me.
Yeah.
Nirmayanavan
Unmai Thedinal
Unmai Thedinal Yenda Devadai
Kandupudipan. Yeah.
So what's that?
What do you think of it?
What's that?
I fancy myself to be a pretty honest dude, and honesty is definitely something that I've come into like through life. I definitely grew up being the type of person that wasn't really trying to ruffle too many feathers. And normally the product of that is like sidestepping, being direct with people, right? And that makes life really, one, annoying, too complicated, and you have to backtrack and all this shit, which is not fun. So as I've gotten older, I've really come into just like living as honestly as possible, both in word and in spirit. And in the pursuit of love, what I've realized, and I think I've realized this through my relationship with like spirituality and God, but like unless you approach it with like true honesty, you're gonna get nothing back. You're like forming walls around yourself before there's even a chance for something to touch you in a way, right? So, and actually while writing the song, I kind of like, I've never been frivolous with like relationships and such, but I've always like kind of like after a point just like built the walls around myself and be like, all right, I'm gonna go make my music. I gotta go on tour, whatever, what have you. While I was making this song, again, it was like a period of time where I just didn't have much to do for those couple weeks. And yeah, it kind of hit me that like, okay, in this pursuit or in this search of love that you feel like a love that you need to fulfill you truly and deeply. And I'm a believer in like, not like old school love or anything, but like what I want for myself is a partner who I can build something with, that feels like foundationally like strong and robust. So that's what I'm in search of. It's going to require the most honest version of myself to really
put your message out here.
Whoever's
seeking.
Out there, they're going to see it.
Yeah, this is a seeking ad for Sid Sriram. That's what this interview has ultimately boiled down to. It's like all this was a prelude to
marriage proposals to come. That's funny. But yeah, I think so. So like, if an honest man is searching for the truth, the literal thing is what angel is going to come into his life, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think like really, and I'd never written Tamil lyrics before, like at all. And these two, like I said in the beginning, are very kind of like, to me, elementary, not in the thought, but in the actual wording of it. But I wanted to, what was fun about writing this verse, I wrote the first verse, and then Ko Seisha wrote the second verse, who he wrote Kade Poman and so on. So, but this first verse, I wanted to sound like if I was writing in a journal, what would that sound like? Minus all like the poetic glisten and all that. Like if I was just putting my thoughts down, what would that be? And that's kind of like where that line was born out of. And again, the belief that, okay, if I'm the most honest version of myself, and if I'm searching for the truth in the world around me and in another individual, what is that gonna, what will you attract?
Yeah, so that's what it felt like. I didn't take that Devadai to mean an actual angel.
Yes.
But like if I go in search of the truth,
yes,
then what fantastic thing am I going to find?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you sing that line for me?
Yeah. Nirmayanavan unmai thedinal yenda devadai கண்டுபிடிப்பான் செவந்த காதல் தானியும் தேடினால் எழுந்து சொல். Is the line.
That's what it goes like.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about, Anirudh made a fantastic statement recently, and I think a very brave one, given how, he knew that people are going to react a certain way. He said that he used ChatGPT to complete one of his songs. He was kind of stuck, and just like I told you about the Devi Sri Prasad thing, he kind of fed something into ChatGPT and that gave him like a bunch of options, and he kind of took inspiration from one of the options and went on with it. And I thought this was like an amazing thing to admit to in public, because not many people will do that.
Sure.
Because they probably want to protect their image
secret.
of, like I'm the old school musician or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But leave this particular aspect apart.
Yeah.
What do you think of using technology to create music?
I think it's an awesome tool and source of potential inspiration. I'm in a phase currently where like I've been making music every single day. For like what I do is normally when I come to India in that like November to February time frame, I don't make any music because I'm pretty focused on my concerts. I'm like, in another space, and I kind of like tell myself like don't touch a keyboard. Don't go record your own stuff. Don't even like try to write any lyrics. Just like go live life, do shit, travel, whatever, and just taking all this information.
What do you do when you're not in a music mode? I mean, not that you're ever not there, but like when you want to switch off. Boxing, you said.
I box every day. Well, one thing I guess like one thing to note here is like you already kind of said it, but I'm kind of always in music mode, because if I'm not doing this, I'm doing that. If I'm not doing that, I'm doing this. And I'm so happy because within the infinite kind of universe of sound and music, there's these different pursuits that I can tap into, and I feel I've saturated one. But when I'm not doing anything music specific, I love reading. I like writing like free form, like not lyric necessarily, but just more stream of consciousness or poetry or like essays on things I really care about.
What do you read?
I'm currently reading the Salman Rushdie book, Satanic Verses.
Okay.
And then I try to do like that plus like some nonfiction at the same time. I'm actually like, I've been making my way through the Bhagavad Gita in the last 6 months, and just like read a couple verses every so often just to take in the information, see what happens. I was a point in time last year where I was really set on, that book Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. So like
That's a really tough book to read.
Oh man, I've tried 3 times, and last year was
that and Ulysses by James Joyce, right?
Yeah.
2 of the toughest books ever.
I've never tried Ulysses. I've tried Infinite Jest 3 times. The first time was just to impress this girl and just to show her I had this like big book on me. Second time was to really try to like make an effort. Last time was the first. I got like 150 pages in, and I thought I was getting a rhythm with it. But you can't travel with that book too, because it's so goddamn big. So we'll see. But yeah, now those 2 books is what I'm reading. I like to like if I'm traveling, I love like just not sightseeing as such, but walking around and wandering in a city. Posting up in a cafe and people watching is something I love to do. Can't really do that in Chennai and like most of the southern states. I can't like move about as freely as I'd like to. But if I'm in a city where I can, I do that for sure. I love like visiting temples. That I do a whole lot of.
Do you do that? Do you feel different when you enter a temple?
Do I feel different? No, I don't think I feel different. I think what I do feel when I leave the temple is a certain sense of like not a weight lifted off my shoulder, but what I've kind of realized temples or any spaces of worship, what's beautiful about them is 2 things. One, they command a certain energy for whatever the reason may be. Like this is outside of people going and pouring their energy into these spaces, but they feel like they're these portals of just like magnetic energy. So going and experiencing that, and then added to that the fact that people come in throngs and really, I had a great experience. You were talking about Sivanada before, right? When I performed at Tirpugar. So the first song that I released as a part of my partnership with Warner was interpretation of the same piece. And we shot that video at the Batu Caves Temple in Kuala Lumpur on Taipusam. And I'm a very kind of like ardent Muruga Bhaktar, and that's been a part of my life for most of my life, hence the Tirpugar and such. But when we went there, it was a really actually great example of a temple that already has this energy. But in 1 to 1.5 days, 1.1 million devotees come to that temple during Taipusam. And we shot the video during that. And shooting the video was awesome, but just being present and seeing people just like with full and complete surrender. You can see it in someone's eyes if like there's no ego in the moment, you know what I mean? And it was like countless experiences of that. Little kids with the palkodam going up like 300 steps. Everything about that. It was actually like kind of like a before and after for me. Because I have these, like my relationship with my ego waxes and wanes where, and it's not necessarily even like a byproduct of how my career is going. It's just, it does, like I'm constantly wrestling with it. And going there and seeing that, making that piece, and I was talking to the director, his name is Parashar Barua. He directed that. He also directed the video for Sol. That making that was like our offering, it felt like. And being in that temple, because you know, part of you thinks, oh, I'm going to this temple, this insanely beautiful festival of devotees are coming here to offer their prayers, and here we are shooting a video. You can feel a tad bit disingenuous if you're not approaching it the right way. But once he said that, I was like, yeah, that is exactly what we're doing, because we're coming into it with the intention of serving this song and also capturing the power of this festival with complete humility. So like that specific experience of going to a temple was really life-changing actually, and kind of set a tone. That was I think in February. So it's set a tone for everything since then. And it has changed the way I also approach going to places of worship. I try to now, like wherever I'm at, I was like in New York a few months ago, just walking around, there's so many like cathedrals and churches all over the place. You just walk in, you just sit, you just take it in for a little bit. And I'm trying to do a lot more of that as much as I can, because I don't know, man, like sometimes just like the quiet, and not like the literal quiet, but just there's a certain solitude that you find, even if these spaces are packed with people when you're in there. And I'm always telling myself the same thing most of the day, honestly, but especially if I'm in a temple, just like surrender and be a vessel. And so yeah, that when I'm not doing music stuff, that's another.
That's what you're doing?
Yeah.
What are you listening to currently?
I'm listening to
Other than
I went back to Dil Se, like that whole album. I was listening to that the other day. I've been doing this thing where like I try to force myself to only listen to one album per day. So like, you know, in like the streaming era, you can jump from this part of the world to that part of the world within a second, and that's the beauty of it, you know. But I've been trying to get my attention span back up, because it's gone to shit. And it's hard for me to focus on any one thing for more than like 5 minutes. And I've been doing these little things to get back to experiencing, whether it's music or books or art or whatever, or conversations in their entirety for longer than just like micro moments. So I listened to the Dil Se album. This was like 3 days ago. It's like so gratifying from start to finish listening to that. There's an album by this artist from Atlanta named Andre 3000, part of a group called Outkast. That album's called The Love Below. Listened to that like last week. Do you know the show The Bear on FX? So on this latest season, there's a song called Slow Disco by St. Vincent that I might have heard before, but it was just used so perfectly in the opening scene.
I just started watching it incidentally.
Oh, are you on season 1?
I'm about 6 episodes in.
How do you like it?
I love it.
Oh man, what a show!
Yeah,
what a show. So yeah, I've also been pulling from like the shows and films I watched for like some cues of music that I really like. There's one flute Mali recording of Bekara that I like listen to I know that recording like the back of my hand now. And that's a musician that, like, you know, you were talking about taking these other phrases and bringing them into Carnatic music.
Like to use the word in a very nice way, he was eccentric in the best way.
A real maverick.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
true maverick, real eccentric. And I've mentioned this before, but he's like a relative of ours.
Oh.
So my mom has like stories of him staying at my grandparents' place when she was younger and stuff. And like he was always on his own wavelength. But that recording, man, like there's times where it sounds like he goes into these flourishes of Bekara that sounds like Western classical music influenced. And I've said this before, but the way he viewed music, it sounds three-dimensional, where there'll be like one phrase where he'll place it, like if you're looking at like a space, it sounds like he placed it over here, and another one where like this like little like flourish will happen on this side, and then something that feels very intimate and close, and like a large, you know what I mean? That recording was, when I was younger, I tried to listen, younger as in like 6 years ago, I tried to listen to it and did not understand a thing. And I was like, and I've tried to listen to his music growing up, never really hit me. Then one day, I don't know what it was, this recording just like, I was in the right time, right space, whatever. And it just unlocked so much within myself of really actually like that recording changed my whole approach to Carnatic music in that I didn't have the ability to adhere to the form the way everyone else kind of does. I always had to have my own path of understanding it and thus performing it. But there's always been a little bit of doubt, like, damn, am I faking my way through this thing? And then I listened to that recording, I was like, that is like the goal. You know, there's just such freedom, such abandon. I bet that man, even if he tried, couldn't do like a cookie cutter thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I always think, like you mentioned Coltrane before, but if Coltrane and him met and made music together, I know this is a musician from our discipline who would have inspired, and vice versa. They probably would have had an insane musical conversation.
Yeah.
But so I listen to that recording all the time. I listened to Kendrick Lamar's last album a lot. A lot of Badego Lamali. So I listen to his music. I've been listening to his music a lot. And I think that kind of like, then some ambient music like Brian Eno, Nine Inch Nails. Nine Inch Nails more like instrumental kind of stuff. And then since Zakirji passed, which is unfortunate that this happens, but I always listen. His music's always been like on rotation. But since he passed, like deep diving back into the recordings that I can find of his music. And there's another musician who figured out, like he was obviously like, I feel like he was like a pop musician.
Yeah.
You know, and not even just like in how he presented and all that. The music itself, like you're listening to it, he's doing crazy things. But through all of that, you're there with him. And I would argue that would probably be the case for someone who has no knowledge of any Indian classical form. He had his sonics down. He had like the dynamics of how he played. And you could tell there's so much heart in every last like note. I liken Stevie Wonder to that in the same way, where his music is like highly technical, chord changes crazy, but making like pop songs against that bed. So yeah, that's some of the stuff I've been listening to.
You know, I could go on forever, but I think we got to like put a stop to this.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, I love that thing that you said, that you know, sometimes you have to be at the right place at the right time to receive a piece of music.
Definitely.
And that happened to me strangely with a song in Carnatic that I never liked, which was this Hechari Gararara.
Oh yeah, Yadukula Kamboji.
Yeah. I don't, for some reason, all the recordings that I did, it just seemed like a drag. I just never liked it.
Yeah.
It was like this, what is the song? And I was like, and then I heard one singer sing it, and it just, maybe I was receptive to it, or maybe the singer opened it up for me, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that day, suddenly I was like, oh wow, what a composition. I was like, till yesterday, I just hated the damn thing.
Yeah.
And like today, I'm just like, wow, what is this?
Therein lies the magic of music, I think, or any art. There's like been certain ragas like Vasanta for the longest time. I was like, I don't think I like it. And then it just switched at one point where like it all felt like, but yeah, I think that's like I always say that music to me is like the greatest and most powerfully beautiful mystery that exists.
And it's Rajiv Menon. He's a great guy to talk to about
I
music.
love talking about Carnatic
Carnatic
music,
music, yeah.
variety music,
So
yeah.
he was telling me, like how music is the most abstract of art forms, right?
Yes.
Because you can't really put words to it, or you know,
And you
like
can't visualize it.
visualize it,
It's
yeah.
just, it's yeah.
yeah,
and-
it's just there. So keep making music, man, and
Thank
lovely
you.
talking to you.
Super, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and of course, all the best for Soul.
Thank you.
That kind of, yeah. So,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mritu towels from Ramraj, premium cotton and bamboo towels. Super soft, super absorbent.
டார்லிங் மொபைல் உலகின் சூப்பர் ஸ்டார்
Periyar Maniammai Institute of Science and Technology, Tanjavur. The world needs you.